In a world where desire is spoken in whispers and control is cloaked in silk ties to souls meet, not by fate, but by a tangle of curiosity and power. 50 Shades of Grey is more than a love story. It is a journey into the uncharted, where trust is as fragile as a sigh, and love is bound by unseen contracts. Today, we step into the misty world created by E.L. James, where passion, pain, and pleasure weave a complex dance. This is not just about romance. It's about a man haunted by darkness, and a woman daring enough to step into it. Prepare yourself, because once you enter their story, you'll see that love, like a storm, has many shades. Some, darker than others. Chapter 1, The Meeting. Sometimes, the greatest shifts in life are not thunderous. They begin with a single, trembling moment. A small decision. A step into the unknown. For Anastasia Steele, it was a favor. An errand. An ordinary morning that would mark the end of everything she thought she knew about herself. The sky over Seattle hung low with heavy clouds, the kind that promised rain but hesitated to deliver it. Anna pulled her old, worn car into the massive parking structure of Grey House, feeling entirely out of place among the gleaming luxury vehicles. Her heart hammered as she clutched a sheet of paper, a list of interview questions scribbled in her neat handwriting. This was supposed to be Kate's assignment. Confident, composed Kate. But the universe had chosen Anastasia instead, quiet, awkward, invisible Anastasia, to face Christian Grey. As the elevator climbed, the numbers blinking upwards, Anna rehearsed her introduction under her breath. Grey Enterprises Holdings. Christian Grey, CEO. 30-something billionaire. She could hardly imagine what he would be like. Some stuffy, graying businessman. Or perhaps someone cold, clinical, detached from the world. She would soon discover that Christian Grey was none of those things. And yet all of them at once. When the door slid open, Anna was greeted by a reception area so pristine, it felt like stepping into a photograph. Glass, steel, soft lighting, every surface gleamed with perfection. The women behind the desk were impossibly beautiful, their smiles sharp and professional. Anna swallowed hard, brushing a hand through her hair, suddenly self-conscious of her simple blue dress and scuffed shoes. And then, she was ushered into his office. Time seemed to slow as she stumbled through the doorway, nearly falling flat on her face. She heard a soft chuckle. Not cruel, amused. And there he was. Christian Grey. Not old. Not graying. But young. Commanding. Devastatingly handsome. His eyes were the first thing she noticed. A piercing shade of gray, like a storm rolling over the ocean. They locked onto hers, sharp and curious, as though stripping her bare in an instant. Anna stammered through her greeting, cheeks aflame. She was certain she looked like an utter fool. But Christian, he leaned forward slightly, resting his chin on his hand, studying her as if she were an unsolved riddle. His office was vast, minimalistic, a place of quiet dominance. A modern throne room for a man who ruled not with armies, but with influence. Anna fumbled with her notes. Her hand shook slightly as she asked her first question, her voice barely above a whisper. And Christian answered. Each word deliberate. Measured. Soft, but edged with authority. He spoke of success, of business empires, of philanthropy. Yet behind his polished words was something unsettled. A tightness. A hidden tension just beneath the surface. He was too controlled. Too perfect. And in Anna's nervous glances and clumsy gestures, Christian saw something he hadn't encountered in a long time. Authenticity. She wasn't trying to impress him. She wasn't seduced by power, or money, or reputation. She was real. And that, somehow, intrigued him. Anna bit her lip, an unconscious habit. Christian's gaze flickered to the movement. And in that moment, something shifted. Desire. Sharp and sudden. He covered it well. A slight narrowing of the eyes. A brief pause. But it was there. Anna, oblivious, pressed on with her questions, trying desperately to maintain some semblance of professionalism. Inside, she was unraveling. Why did his voice make her stomach flutter? Why did his gaze make her knees weak? She hated feeling so small, so out of place. But there was something exhilarating, too. As if she were standing at the edge of a precipice, peering into a world she'd never known existed. When the interview finally ended, Christian stood, offering his hand. Large, warm, firm. The moment their fingers touched, a jolt of electricity surged through Anna's entire body. He smiled then. Not the polite smile he'd given at first. Something darker. More intimate. Anna pulled away quickly, gathering her things with shaking hands. As she turned to leave, Christian's voice stopped her. Anastasia, he said smoothly, her name rolling off his tongue like silk. I look forward to seeing you again. It wasn't a question. It was a certainty. Anna fled the office, heart pounding against her ribs, the echo of his words following her into the rain-soaked streets. She had no idea what she had just awakened. No idea that a man like Christian Grey didn't simply let go of something, or someone, that intrigued him. Above her, the clouds finally broke, releasing a steady, gentle rain. The kind that soaks you slowly without you noticing. Until you are drenched, heart and soul. And so began the story of Anastasia Steele and Christian Grey. A story of control. Of submission. Of two lonely souls daring to touch, and perhaps destroy, each other. Neither could have known then that the most dangerous storms are the ones we invite willingly. Chapter 2. The Chase. Some encounters linger far longer than they should. They take root in quiet moments, whispering in the back of your mind when the world goes still. For Anastasia Steele, Christian Grey had not just lingered. He had embedded himself deep within her thoughts, refusing to let go. She tried to return to normal life. To bury herself in final exams, in term papers, in the comfortable routine of days spent at the bookstore and nights spent studying. But nothing felt normal anymore. She could still see him. That piercing gaze, heavy with something she dared not name. That poised, effortless authority that seemed to command not just a room, but the very air she breathed. Every time she closed her eyes, he was there. Anna berated herself. She was foolish, ridiculous. Men like Christian Grey didn't think twice about women like her. And yet, she found herself staring at her phone, half hoping for a call that would never come. Days passed, each one heavier than the last, until he came back into her life. Not through a call, not through a letter, but in person. It was a Saturday, dull and drizzling. Anna was working her shift at Clayton's, the local hardware store, a modest place filled with the scent of wood and oil and dusty shelves. She was restocking screws, when the little bell above the door chimed. She turned, and her heart stopped. Christian Grey. Standing there as if he belonged to another world entirely, too polished, too striking, too out of place among the cluttered aisles and flickering lights. He wore a light gray jacket over a crisp white shirt, jeans that somehow looked custom-made, and an expression that made her breath catch. He smiled, a slow, deliberate curve of his lips, and approached. Anna struggled to compose herself, gripping the edge of a shelf to stay upright. "Miss Steele," he said, voice smooth and low, a private melody only she could hear. She stammered a greeting, cheeks blazing. What was he doing here? Why had he sought her out? The question screamed inside her, but she couldn't find the words to ask them. Christian, ever composed, explained that he needed supplies, cable ties, masking tape, rope. Anna's mind raced. Why these items? The implications hovered at the edge of her thoughts, stirring something wild and thrilling and terrifying all at once. She fumbled through helping him, hyper-aware of every glance he cast her way. Each brush of his fingers sent a jolt through her veins. They talked, awkwardly at first, but there was an undeniable pull between them, a magnetic current neither could deny. He asked if she would take his photo, for the article Kate was writing. A casual request on the surface, but something deeper stirred beneath it. A connection. An invitation. Anna agreed, trying to ignore the wild thundering of her heart. They arranged to meet the next day. Christian Grey would not let her slip away so easily. Not now. Not ever. That night, Anna lay awake in her small, cluttered room, staring at the ceiling. She replayed every word, every glance. Was it possible he was interested in her? Plain, awkward, bookish Anna. The thought was both exhilarating and absurd. She told herself not to hope, not to dream. Men like Christian Grey didn't chase women like her. And yet, the next morning came, bringing sunlight that pierced through the thin curtains. Anna dressed with trembling hands, choosing a simple outfit, wishing she had something, anything, more sophisticated. At the university's photography studio, she found herself once again face to face with him. Christian Grey. More devastatingly beautiful than she remembered. His hair ruffled by the breeze, his gray eyes dark and unreadable. She raised the camera, trying to hide her shaking hands. "Smile," she whispered. He didn't. Instead, he watched her, as though she was the one under the lens. As though he could see every hidden corner of her soul. The session was brief, charged with silent tension. When it ended, Anna thanked him, certain that this would be the last time they crossed paths. But Christian had other plans. He offered her coffee. Casual gesture. An ordinary invitation. Yet in his voice, in the way he looked at her, it was anything but ordinary. They walked together to a nearby cafe, the conversation hesitant at first. Anna asked questions, silly ones, she thought, about his business, his family, his success. Christian answered, but always turned the focus back onto her. What did she want to do after graduation? Where did she see herself? Was she seeing anyone? The questions hung between them, heavier with every passing moment. And then, the warning came. Christian leaned forward, his gaze locked onto hers. "I am not the man for you, Anastasia," he said, voice low, almost pained. "You should steer clear of me." Anna blinked, stunned. What did that mean? Was he dangerous? Or was he simply warning her of a heart he could not offer? Christian stood abruptly, the chair scraping across the floor. He paid for their drinks, and walked her back to her car, every step thick with unspoken things. At her old Beetle, he paused. His hand lifted, hesitated, then brushed a lock of hair from her face. The touch was feather-light, but it set her entire body alight. She looked up at him, her heart an unsteady drumbeat in her chest. For a moment, she thought he might kiss her. The air between them crackled. But instead, Christian clenched his fists, forcing himself to step back. "Goodbye, Anastasia," he said softly. And then he was gone. Anna slumped against the door of her car, breathless, dazed. The world felt duller without him. How could a single man undo her so completely? Inside the cafe, inside the bookstore, inside her very bones, Christian Grey had left an imprint. A promise. A warning. A whisper. This was no ordinary attraction. It was the beginning of a chase. A dangerous dance between predator and prey, dominance and surrender, need and fear. And somewhere deep inside, Anna knew. She had already begun to run toward him. Even as he tried to run away. Chapter 3, The Proposal. Some things are easier to ignore. Some things are easier to walk away from. But not Christian Grey. Not when he sets his sights on something. Not when the world bends to his will. For Anastasia Steele, Christian was a force she couldn't ignore. A man who defied every rule she lived by. A man whose touch sent shockwaves through her, shocking, beautiful, terrifying. After their last meeting, Anna thought she could forget him. She told herself it would be just another brief encounter. A passing storm, one she could let slip through her fingers like water. But then, Christian Grey sent her a gift. A simple, elegant gift. Delivered to her apartment. It arrived unexpectedly, a small package waiting on her doorstep, the smooth, deep red of the wrapping paper contrasting sharply against the gray Seattle skies. The ribbon was carefully tied, as if the gift itself was an offering. Inside, Anna found a first edition of Tess of the D'Urbervilles, the novel she had once mentioned in passing. Her heart caught in her throat. It was the kind of gift only someone who was paying attention, truly paying attention, would give. Not just a gesture, but a message. A symbol of something much more complicated. Why would Christian Grey remember something so insignificant? Why would he care? Anna found herself staring at the book, her fingers grazing the leather-bound cover, a mix of awe and confusion flooding her mind. The message was clear. Christian Grey was not someone who forgot. He was not someone who let things go. He was someone who took control. And now, Anna was caught in his orbit. The next day, Christian showed up again, but this time, the encounter was deliberate. Not a chance meeting, not a coincidence. It was as if he had planned it all along. Anna sat in the cafe near the university, her coffee cooling beside her, when she saw him walk in, tall, confident, that signature gray suit, that made him look like he owned the world. And, perhaps, in his own way, he did. He smiled when he saw her, and the air in the room seemed to thrum with energy. Every eye in the cafe turned toward him, yet Anna felt as though she were the only person in the room. Christian slid into the chair across from her, uninvited, but with an ease that made his presence seem inevitable. "Miss Steele," he greeted, voice warm, but there was something underlying it, a certain dominance, a subtle command. Anna stiffened slightly. She had no idea what to expect from him anymore. "I trust the book was to your liking." Christian's smile was enigmatic, his gaze locked onto hers, with a weight that made her pulse quicken. "It's thoughtful," Anna replied, trying to sound composed. Her hands were shaking slightly as she clutched her coffee cup, but he didn't seem to notice, or maybe he did. Christian leaned back, observing her carefully. His eyes traced the curve of her jaw, the flutter of her lashes as she tried to regain control of her emotions. It was as if he saw right through her, through all the walls she built so carefully. "You've been thinking about me, Anastasia," he said, his voice steady, unshaken. "In fact, I'd venture to guess that you can't stop thinking about me." Anna flushed, flustered by the accuracy of his observation. She opened her mouth to protest, to deny it, but the words caught in her throat. Was it true? Had she been thinking about him? Had she been wondering about him, even after everything? She closed her eyes, taking a deep breath, trying to steady herself. "You're wrong," she managed to say. "You're completely wrong." But Christian just smiled. Not an arrogant smile. Not a smug smile. But a knowing smile. "No, Anastasia," he said softly, his voice like silk. "I'm not wrong. I've never been wrong when it comes to you." His words landed on her chest like a weight, and Anna had to resist the urge to press her hand to her heart. Christian leaned forward, the chair creaking slightly under his weight. "Let me make this easy for you," he continued. "I want you, Anastasia." There was no hesitation in his voice. No room for doubt. Anna's breath caught in her throat. It wasn't a question. It wasn't an invitation. It was a declaration. "And I'm going to make you mine." The finality in his words was unmistakable. Anna stared at him, unsure of what to say. Her mind raced with questions, questions she didn't even know how to ask. Why did he want her? What did he want from her? What kind of man would say something like that? Before she could voice any of her thoughts, Christian slid a piece of paper across the table toward her. It was a contract. A thick, carefully prepared document, the kind she had never seen before. "What's this?" Anna asked, her voice small, disbelieving. Christian didn't answer immediately. He let the silence stretch between them, his eyes never leaving hers. "That is a proposal," he said simply. "A contract. A formal agreement for the kind of relationship I want with you." His gaze darkened slightly, his jaw tightening as he leaned closer. "And if you choose to accept, I'll make sure you never forget me." Anna's eyes widened as she looked at the paper in front of her. This wasn't an ordinary proposal. This wasn't a traditional offer. It was something else. Something unfamiliar and unsettling. She reached for the contract, her fingers trembling slightly as she ran them over the surface. But she couldn't bring herself to open it. Not yet. Not when she didn't even understand what it meant. Christian watched her closely, waiting, as if he knew exactly what she was thinking. He knew she was afraid. He knew she was confused. And, most of all, he knew she was conflicted. "You don't have to decide now," he said quietly, his voice softer than before. "Take your time, think it over." He stood then, but before he turned to leave, he dropped a small envelope on the table. "For you, Anastasia," he said, his voice low, filled with something Anna couldn't quite identify. With that, he walked away, leaving her alone with the contract and with her thoughts. Anna stared at the envelope. It felt impossibly heavy in her hands. She had no idea what was in it. But somehow, she knew it would change everything. She opened it slowly, almost afraid of what she might find inside. Inside was a simple, handwritten note. "Let's see where this goes. I look forward to hearing your decision." No signature. No further explanation. Just those few words, written in black ink. Anna felt the weight of the world settle on her shoulders. The man who had come into her life with the force of a hurricane had now handed her a choice. A choice that could change everything. Chapter 4. The Decision. Decisions are not made in the quiet moments. They are not made in the silence of thought or the stillness of the night. Decisions are made in the heart. In that fleeting, chaotic moment, when everything seems to shift beneath your feet. For Anastasia Steele, the decision loomed over her, like a storm cloud waiting to burst. The contract Christian had given her was still sitting on her desk, a silent challenge, a weight that seemed to grow heavier with each passing hour. She couldn't stop thinking about it, couldn't escape the constant pull between fear and desire. It wasn't just the document itself that held her captive. It was the man who had placed it there. Christian Grey. She couldn't shake the memory of his touch, his voice, that knowing look he always had when he gazed at her. "You're mine," he had said. The words haunted her. Christian wasn't like other men. He wasn't someone she could ignore or dismiss. He was a force, and she was powerless to stop him. But she wasn't sure if she wanted to stop him. And that, more than anything, terrified her. The more she thought about the contract, the more questions emerged. What kind of relationship was he offering? What kind of man was he? What was she getting herself into? Anna was torn. On one hand, there was the safety of her ordinary life. The life she knew, the life where she kept her distance from men like Christian. She had always kept her emotions in check, preferring the security of her books, her studies, her friends. On the other hand, there was the magnetic pull of Christian. The attraction was undeniable. She had felt it the moment he stepped into her life, and it had only grown stronger with every encounter. Anna had always prided herself on being logical, on thinking things through. But logic didn't seem to apply when it came to Christian Grey. With him, she felt as though she was losing control of everything, her thoughts, her actions, her very sense of self. It wasn't just about the physical attraction. It was something deeper, something more intense. A connection that threatened to consume her. She had never felt this way before. She had never met anyone like him. And she had no idea what to do with these feelings. The decision wasn't just about accepting or rejecting the contract. It was about deciding who she was. About whether she was willing to give up the life she knew for something unknown, something potentially dangerous. Her phone buzzed, interrupting her thoughts. It was a message from Christian. "Have you had a chance to think about the contract?" The simple text sent a ripple of anxiety through her chest. Was he waiting for her answer? Was he testing her? Or was he genuinely interested in her decision? Anna's fingers hovered over the keys. She knew what he wanted. She had felt it in every interaction, every word, every glance. He wanted her. In every way. She could feel his presence, even when he wasn't there. She could hear his voice in her mind, his words etched into her thoughts. She pressed her lips together, staring at the screen. "I'm still thinking." She typed the response, her fingers trembling. Christian's reply came almost immediately. "Take your time, Anastasia, but I'm not going anywhere." The message was casual, but the underlying meaning was clear. Christian wasn't going to give up on her. Not until he got what he wanted. Anna tossed her phone aside, frustrated with herself. Why couldn't she make up her mind? Why did he have to be so overwhelming? She turned her attention back to the contract on her desk, her eyes scanning the dense text once more. It was clear, precise, and uncompromising. There was no room for negotiation, no room for uncertainty. It was either yes or no. Christian had given her no middle ground. Her thoughts spiraled. She thought about his touch, about the way he made her feel, alive, electric, unsure. She thought about how he had kissed her, the heat of his lips, the way he had taken control without asking. She thought about the way his eyes held hers, as if he could see everything she was hiding. Was she ready for this? Was she ready to give herself to someone so completely? Her mind screamed that she wasn't. That she wasn't the kind of person who could live this way, with someone so dominant, so commanding, so controlling. But her heart told a different story. She was drawn to him. She didn't want to admit it, didn't want to acknowledge the pull, but she could feel it deep within her. Christian Grey was the kind of man who changed everything. It wasn't just about the sex. It was about power. It was about control. And it was about surrender. Anna closed her eyes, her mind swirling with emotions too powerful to put into words. She had never been the type to give up control. She had never allowed herself to be vulnerable in that way. But Christian was different. He saw through her defenses, through the walls she had built, and made her want to surrender. She took a deep breath, slowly standing up from her desk. The decision wasn't just about the contract. It was about what she wanted in her life, and who she was willing to become. She knew that accepting the contract would change her forever. It would take her into a world she didn't understand. A world where Christian controlled everything. Where she was at his mercy. But there was something alluring about it. Something intoxicating. Anna walked over to the window, gazing out at the gray Seattle sky. The rain was falling softly, the streets glistening with the sheen of water. What if she said yes? What if she gave herself to him? What would that mean for her? Would it be a betrayal of everything she believed in? But then again, was she betraying herself by not saying yes? The questions weighed heavily on her heart. But one thing was clear. She was already in this, whether she acknowledged it or not. And now, it was time to make her choice. Anna sat back down at her desk, and picked up the phone again. She typed a simple message. "I've made my decision." And with that, she hit send. The wait for his reply felt like eternity. But when it came, it was quick, as always. "I'll be seeing you soon, Anastasia." And with that, the storm that had been swirling inside her finally broke. She had made her decision. But what she hadn't anticipated was how much her life would change, how much he would change her. Some agreements are signed with a flourish of ink. Some are signed in hesitation, in fear. And some are signed with the heart, long before the pen ever touches the paper. Anastasia Steele hadn't officially signed anything yet. But somewhere deep within, her heart had already crossed that line. The next evening, she found herself standing once again in the foyer of Escala, Christian Gree's penthouse apartment. The place felt different now. Not just vast and beautiful, but intimate. As if the walls themselves were waiting, holding their breath along with her. Christian appeared in the doorway, as commanding as ever. Tailored, precise, and devastatingly handsome. "Anastasia," he greeted her, his voice a soft rumble that made her knees weaken slightly. She offered a nervous smile, clutching her purse tighter. Inside it was the contract, the defining document of the next chapter of her life. Would she sign it? Could she? He led her inside with a simple motion, guiding her into the heart of his world. The playroom door was closed, looming, a silent promise of what could be. But tonight was not about exploration. It was about decisions. Christian poured them each a glass of wine, his movements fluid and sure. He watched her over the rim of his glass, every glance weighted with expectation. "Have you read everything?" he asked quietly. Anna nodded. "Yes." And one word, but it carried the full gravity of the moment between them. Anna swallowed hard, trying to find her voice. "It's a lot to take in." He set his glass down and moved closer. "You can ask me anything, Anna. No judgment, no pressure." His sincerity startled her. For a man who thrived on control, he was offering her the rarest thing, a choice. Anna pulled out the contract, unfolding the pages with trembling hands. "I have questions," she said finally. He smiled faintly, patient. "Good. Let's discuss them." They sat together at the dining table, papers spread before them like battle plans. Anna pointed to clauses, asked about limits, safe words, punishments. Christian answered every question with unnerving calm. He explained the importance of trust, communication, and, most surprisingly, consent. "You always have the power to stop this, Anna," he said, his voice low. "Always." Those words anchored her. She realized he wasn't offering ownership, he was offering surrender. A willing, conscious surrender to him. And somewhere in that strange, tangled logic, Anna found a sliver of freedom. Hours passed. The world outside Escala faded. There was only him, only her, only the gravity between them tightening. At last, Christian leaned back, studying her. "You don't have to sign it tonight," he said softly. "Take as long as you need." But Anna shook her head. She knew waiting wouldn't change anything. The pull toward him, the desire to dive into this unknown world, was too strong. She reached for the pen he offered. Her hand hovered over the signature line. In that moment, flashes of doubt surged through her. Was she ready for this? Was she giving away too much? But with one final breath, she silenced the questions. Some journeys had to be taken, even when the destination was uncertain. Her name bloomed across the page, the ink glistening under the light. Christian's expression darkened slightly, not in anger, but in a kind of fierce, almost primal satisfaction. He reached out, running a finger up along the edge of her hand where it rested on the paper. "You have no idea what you've just agreed to, Anastasia," he murmured. His voice sent a shiver down her spine. A shiver that was equal parts fear and thrill. He stood, extending his hand. "Come," he said. She rose, heart hammering in her chest. Each step toward the closed playroom door felt heavier, more significant. She was stepping into a new world, his world. Christian paused at the threshold, looking down at her. "Last chance," he said. "All you have to do is say, no, and we walk away." Anna met his gaze, her own uncertain but resolute. "I want to understand," she whispered. A smile flickered across his lips, a smile full of dark promise. "Then let's begin." He pushed open the door. The room beyond was a symphony of deep reds and dark woods, lit softly, warmly. There was no harshness here, no cruelty. Only an overwhelming sense of intensity. Leather. Silk. Steel. Anna's breath caught in her throat. Christian moved with ease, with ownership. He showed her the instruments, the furniture, the purpose of each item, his voice calm, instructional. This was not a place of punishment. It was a place of trust. He watched her carefully, gauging every reaction. "This is about you," he said. "Your limits, your desires, your pleasure." The way he said it, so sure, so commanding, sent another rush of heat through her veins. He circled her slowly, his presence enveloping her. "You intrigue me, Anastasia," he murmured. "You're different. You don't know how beautiful you are, how tempting." She trembled under his gaze. And then, so slowly it was almost tortuous, he reached out and brushed a strand of hair from her face. The touch was electric, igniting something deep inside her. He tilted her chin up, forcing her to meet his eyes. "I'm going to show you how exquisite surrender can be," he whispered. Anna's heart thundered in her chest. The room, the contract, the questions, they all faded into insignificance. There was only him. Only this moment. Christian leaned down, capturing her mouth in a kiss that was both a promise and a possession. A kiss that spoke of all the things yet to come. And Anna, for all her fear, kissed him back. She didn't know what the future would hold. She didn't know what challenges awaited her in Christian Gray's world. But for tonight, she chose to surrender. And as Christian Grey lifted her into his arms, carrying her deeper into the room, deeper into the unknown, Anna knew one truth above all others. She had made her decision. And there was no going back. Chapter 6, First Lessons. The first lessons we learn are often the hardest. Not because they hurt, though sometimes they do, but because they change us. They rewrite the language of what we think we know about ourselves. Tonight, Anastasia Steele was about to be rewritten. Christian carried her effortlessly across the threshold of the playroom, cradling her as if she weighed nothing at all. The door closed behind them, with a soft click, final, sealing her fate for the night. He set her down gently, but his hands lingered, tracing the line of her jaw, the curve of her neck. "Trust me," he whispered. It wasn't a demand. It was a prayer. Anna nodded, too overwhelmed to find her voice. Christian stepped back, his entire demeanor shifting, from attentive lover to something more. Something commanding. Something devastatingly powerful. "Take off your clothes," he said softly. Anna's cheeks burned. Even now, after everything, the vulnerability of standing naked before him felt monumental. But there was an urgency in his gaze, a rawness that told her this was part of it, this stripping away of barriers. With trembling fingers, she pulled her top over her head, and fastened her jeans, and let them slide to the floor. Christian watched her like a predator watching prey, not cruel, but hungry. Appreciative. When she was fully bare, he approached, his eyes never leaving hers. "You're breathtaking," he murmured. He cupped her face in both hands, and kissed her deeply, slowly, as if savoring the moment before the lesson began. Then he led her to the center of the room, to a tall, elegant structure with leather cuffs dangling from polished wood. The sight of it made Anna's heart stutter. Christian turned her gently, guiding her wrists into the cuffs above her head. The leather was surprisingly soft, cradling her skin rather than biting into it. He fastened them securely, but carefully, always watching her face for any sign of distress. "Color?" he asked. Anna blinked. "Oh, the safe word system." "Green," she whispered. A small smile curved his lips. "Good girl," he praised. Those two words, simple, but potent, sent a rush of heat straight through her. Christian stepped back to admire his work, and Anna could feel the weight of his gaze everywhere. She was exposed, vulnerable and yet, strangely, powerful. "This isn't about pain, Anna," he said, moving to a cabinet and pulling out a riding crop. "This is about trust, about sensation." He trailed the crop lightly down her spine. The touch was feather-light, almost ticklish. Anna shivered. He chuckled softly, a low, dark sound that vibrated through her. Without warning, he flicked the crop across her behind, not hard enough to hurt, but firm enough to shock. Anna gasped, her body jolting. "How was that?" Christian asked, his voice casual, almost teasing. "It startled me," she admitted. He smiled again, that maddening, knowing smile. "Good." He struck again, slightly firmer this time, and then soothed the skin with his hand. Each flick of the crop sent a jolt of sensation through her, sharpening her awareness of her body, of every nerve ending. Anna found herself anticipating the next touch, craving it. It wasn't about pain. It was about connection. About surrendering completely to another person's care. Christian moved methodically, expertly, never lingering too long in one spot, never overwhelming her. He whispered praises between strokes, words that filled her with pride, with pleasure. "You're doing so well. Beautiful. My brave girl." Anna floated somewhere between pain and pleasure, fear and ecstasy. And when Christian finally set the crop aside and released her wrists, she collapsed into his arms, trembling. He held her tightly, murmuring soothing words into her hair. "You did beautifully," he said, rocking her slightly. Anna clung to him, overwhelmed by the intensity of the experience. Part of her was shocked. She had never imagined she could endure something like this. Another part was exhilarated. She had crossed a threshold within herself. Christian lifted her effortlessly again, carrying her across the room to a soft, sprawling bed. He laid her down with reverence, as if she were something precious. Then he undressed with quick efficiency, revealing the body that had haunted her dreams, lean, muscled, scarred. Scars. She hadn't noticed them before. Lines across his chest, faint but undeniable. Anna's heart ached unexpectedly. Who had hurt him? What had he endured to become this man? But before she could ask, he was climbing onto the bed, covering her body with his, surrounding her with his heat. He kissed her deeply, hungrily, his hands roaming over her sensitized skin. Every touch was magnified, electric. When he finally entered her, slow, deep, claiming, Anna cried out, overwhelmed by sensation. Christian moved with deliberate control, watching her closely, attuned to every gasp, every moan. Their bodies moved together, finding a rhythm that felt inevitable, fated. Anna lost herself in him, in the sheer overwhelming rightness of it. When release finally came, it shattered her, leaving her trembling, gasping, utterly undone. Christian followed moments later, groaning her name like a benediction. They collapsed together, tangled, sweating, panting. For a long moment, there was only silence, the heavy, charged silence of two people who had crossed into something deeper than mere physical connection. Christian brushed the hair from her face, his touch surprisingly tender. "You're amazing," he whispered. Anna smiled sleepily, her heart full. But deep down, a tiny seed of uncertainty remained. What had she truly agreed to tonight? What pieces of herself had she given away? And more importantly, would Christian Grey ever truly give her anything in return? She drifted into sleep in his arms, the questions lingering in the corners of her mind. But for now, for tonight, she was his. And somehow, impossibly, he was hers. Chapter 7, The Aftermath. Morning came slowly. The first rays of sunlight filtered through the tall windows, painting soft gold across the room. Anna stirred beneath cool sheets, her body aching in ways both new and strangely satisfying. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Forgot who she was. She was only sensation, warmth, soreness, the faint echo of pleasure still humming in her veins. And then she remembered. Christian. The playroom. The exquisite, terrifying vulnerability of the night before. Anna blinked her eyes open and found herself alone in the bed. The space beside her was empty, the sheets already cooling. A strange pang shot through her chest, disappointment, abandonment. She pushed the thought away, sitting up carefully, wincing at the tenderness between her thighs. She spotted a tray on the bedside table, fresh fruit, pastries, and a steaming mug of tea. Beside it, a small note in Christian's neat, precise handwriting. Lauders, baby, I have a meeting. 8. I'll be back soon. Christian. Anna smiled despite herself. There was something endearing about his controlling tendencies when wrapped up in casual affection. She ate slowly, sipping the tea, savoring the strange serenity of the moment. But as she moved, as she stretched sore muscles and touched lingering bruises, doubts began to creep in. Was this what she wanted? Could she live in a world where love was tangled up with leather cuffs and riding crops? Christian had been gentle, patient, even, but the undercurrent of control was undeniable. Would there ever be room for her voice, her choices, in this whatever this was? The door creaked open, and Christian entered, immaculate as always, crisp white shirt, tailored pants, hair slightly damp from a shower. His gray eyes lit up at the sight of her. "Good morning, Anastasia," he said, his voice low and warm. Anna flushed under his gaze, self-conscious in her borrowed sleepwear. "Good morning," she murmured. Christian crossed the room in a few strides, and pressed a kiss to her forehead. "Did you sleep well?" Anna nodded. He smiled, but there was a searching look in his eyes, as if he could see the flicker of doubt inside her. "Talk to me," he said softly, sitting on the edge of the bed. Anna twisted the hem of her shirt between her fingers. I'm trying to understand all this," she confessed. "Last night was intense." Christian's smile faded into something more serious, more vulnerable. "I know," he said. "And I know it's a lot to take in. That's why we have contracts, negotiations, boundaries." Anna looked up at him, searching his face. "But what about love?" she whispered. Christian stiffened almost imperceptibly. "I don't do love, Anastasia," he said, his voice guarded. "I do control, I do trust, I take care of what's mine." Anna's heart ached. She wanted to believe that trust could be enough. That control could fill the same spaces that love would leave hollow. But deep down, she knew it wouldn't be. Still, there was something about Christian Grey, something wounded, something fragile beneath all the power and perfection, that called to her. Maybe she could be the one to heal him. Maybe love wasn't something he could avoid forever. Christian cupped her face in his hands, pulling her from her thoughts. "Anastasia," he murmured. "I want you, all of you, I don't know any other way." The honesty in his voice tore at her defenses. She nodded slowly, accepting, for now, the limitations he offered. Christian's smile returned, softer this time. "Come," he said, standing and offering his hand. She took it without hesitation. He led her through the apartment to a room Anna hadn't seen before, bright and airy, filled with books and a grand piano in the center. The walls were lined with shelves, heavy with novels and rare editions. It felt like a sanctuary, a glimpse into a side of Christian she had only started to glimpse. He sat at the piano, his fingers ghosting over the keys. Then he began to play, a haunting, melancholic melody that filled the room with longing. Anna watched, transfixed. This was Christian stripped bare, no contracts, no whips, no walls. Just a man pouring his soul into music. When he finished, the final notes lingering like a sigh, he looked up at her. His eyes were unguarded, vulnerable. Anna crossed the room without thinking, and sat beside him on the bench. "I didn't know you played," she said softly. "There's a lot you don't know about me," Christian replied, a shadow passing across his face. "Show me," Anna whispered. Christian reached for her hand, threading his fingers through hers. And for the first time, Anna felt the faintest flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, there was more to Christian Grey than contracts and control. Maybe there was a man capable of love after all. But as they sat there, the weight of reality returned. Christian pulled a thick envelope from his pocket, and handed it to her. The contract. The list of rules, expectations, Punishments. Anna's stomach twisted as she flipped through the pages. Everything about her life would be regulated, from how many hours she slept to what she ate to how often she exercised. It wasn't just about pleasure or trust. It was about ownership. Christian watched her closely, his jaw tight. "You don't have to decide today," he said. "Take your time, think about it." Anna nodded, grateful for the reprieve. But the seed of doubt had already taken root. Could she surrender so completely without losing herself? Could she love a man who didn't know how to love back? Christian leaned in and kissed her forehead, a gesture so tender it made her chest ache. "I'll wait," he promised. But Anna wasn't sure if waiting would make the decision any easier. She tucked the contract under her arm, and followed Christian back to the bedroom to gather her things. It was time to leave, for now. As she stepped into the elevator, Christian's hand lingered on hers, a moment longer than necessary. Their eyes met, a silent, desperate connection. And then the doors slid closed. Anna leaned back against the cool wall of the elevator, clutching the contract like a lifeline. Outside, the world bustled with life, ordinary, predictable, safe. But inside her, everything had changed. Christian Grey had awakened something she couldn't ignore. Something dangerous. Something beautiful. Something impossible. As the elevator descended, Anna realized she stood at the edge of a precipice. Whatever she chose, nothing would ever be the same again. Chapter 8, A Negotiation of Hearts. Anna stared at the thick envelope in her hands as she sat on her small bed at home. The pages felt heavy, each clause a chain waiting to be fastened. The world outside her window carried on as if nothing had changed. But inside her, inside Anna, a storm was brewing. She flipped through the contract again. Rules about food. Rules about exercise. Rules about obedience. And punishments, laid out clinically, coldly, as if her pain could be negotiated like business terms. Anna's mind spun. She knew she should be terrified. Should run far from Christian Grey and his dark desires. But she didn't want to run. She wanted to understand. She wanted him. Frustrated, Anna tossed the papers onto her desk and powered up her laptop. If Christian wanted a negotiation, then she would give him one. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard for a moment before she began typing, the words spilling out faster than she could think. "Dear Mr. Grey," she wrote, her tone formal, teasing. "Following our recent discussions and your extensive documentation, I have questions." Point by point, she challenged him. Was he serious about certain punishments? Could she retain some autonomy over her diet? Was everything negotiable? And then, with a smirk, she added a final jab. "Also, please define what you mean by anal fisting. Regards, Anastasia Steele." She clicked send before she could second-guess herself. A thrill coursed through her. Christian had wanted honesty. He would get it, in spades. Moments later, her email pinged with a reply. "Miss Steele," he wrote, his tone clipped, controlled. "I am pleased you are taking this seriously. However, some things are not up for negotiation, anal fisting being one, and for the sake of clarity, it means exactly what it sounds like." Anna flushed scarlet, alone in her room. Christian's bluntness, his total lack of embarrassment, was staggering. But it also grounded her. He wasn't pretending. He wasn't hiding. And in that honesty, there was a strange kind of trust. Anna responded immediately, teasing him about his rigidity, daring him to lighten up. And to her amazement, he played along, sending dry, witty replies that made her laugh out loud. The negotiation, it seemed, wasn't just about rules and punishments. It was about connection. About trust. About finding a middle ground, where two wildly different worlds could meet. As the evening wore on, Anna grew bolder. She pointed out the absurdity of some of Christian's demands, asking why he needed to monitor her sleep schedule or approve her clothing. Christian's replies were swift, firm, but not without a hint of humor. He wanted control. He needed it. It was who he was. But he also seemed willing, maybe even eager, to bend for her, to compromise. By midnight, Anna was exhausted. Her final email was playful, almost flirtatious. "I think I'll have to sleep on it, Mr. Grey. Thank you for an enlightening evening. Lauders, baby." She powered down the laptop and crawled into bed. Sleep came slowly, her mind whirling with thoughts of Christian, his touch, his voice, his impossible demands. But somewhere between waking and dreaming, a decision began to take root. Anna didn't want a contract. She didn't want rules or punishments. She wanted Christian. The man beneath the mask. The man who played the piano with aching sadness. The man who, despite everything, was trying, clumsily, stubbornly, to let her in. Maybe she couldn't fix him. Maybe she shouldn't even try. But she could love him. And maybe, just maybe, that would be enough. The next morning, Anna woke to find another email waiting for her. Breakfast, my place, 10 a.m. I'll send Taylor for you. Wear jeans. Simple, direct, pure Christian. She smiled, feeling a spark of anticipation ignite in her belly. A part of her, the sensible, cautious part, warned her to slow down. But the louder part, the reckless, passionate part, couldn't wait. She showered quickly, pulling on her best jeans and a simple white blouse. By the time Taylor arrived, she was ready, heart pounding, nerves electrified. The drive to Christian's building was a blur. When she stepped into the penthouse, he was waiting for her. Casual Christian. Dark jeans, gray t-shirt, barefoot. And somehow even more dangerously handsome. Good morning, Miss Steele, he said, his mouth curving into a rare, genuine smile. Good morning, Anna replied, feeling breathless just looking at him. They sat down to breakfast, pancakes, bacon, fresh fruit. Christian insisted on serving her, his attentiveness both endearing and overwhelming. As they ate, he asked about her thoughts on the contract. Anna toyed with her fork, choosing her words carefully. I think, she began, that we need to talk more in person about everything. Christian nodded, setting down his coffee cup. Agreed, he said. He led her to his massive living room, where he had laid out the contract on the glass table. They sat across from each other, two adversaries negotiating the terms of surrender or salvation. One by one, they tackled the issues. Anna pushed back on the more extreme punishments. Christian conceded, reluctantly, on some points. They discussed safe words, hard limits, soft limits. It was the strangest conversation Anna had ever had, clinical, intimate, terrifying. But through it all, Christian remained patient. Open. He wanted this to work. He wanted her. And Anna, for all her fears, wanted him too. Finally, after hours of discussion, Christian leaned back in his chair, studying her. You're making me rethink everything, he said quietly. Anna's heart leapt. Good, she whispered. Christian smiled, a rare, dazzling smile that made her knees weak. You're mine, Anastasia, he said. Don't forget that. I'm not a possession, Christian, she replied, teasing but firm. No, he agreed. You're much more. You're everything. For a moment, the air between them pulsed, charged, electric. Christian stood and held out his hand. Anna took it without hesitation. He led her upstairs, back to the playroom. But this time, there was something different in his touch, something gentler, more reverent. As he bound, her wrists in soft leather cuffs, he brushed kisses against her skin. As he whispered instructions, his voice was low, almost trembling. And when he finally took her, slowly, tenderly, it wasn't about control. It was about trust. About surrender, not just of body, but of soul. Later, as they lay tangled together, Anna traced lazy patterns across Christian's chest. Are you always like this? She asked sleepily. Like what? So careful. Christian chuckled, a rare, beautiful sound. Only with you, Anastasia, he said. Only ever with you. Anna smiled, closing her eyes, letting herself drift. Maybe the path ahead wouldn't be easy. Maybe love wouldn't come wrapped in ribbons and sunshine. But it would be theirs, fierce, imperfect, real. And for now, that was enough. Chapter 9, Temptation in Silver. The sun streamed through the wide windows of Christian's penthouse, casting a warm glow across Anna's bare skin. She stirred against the soft sheets, the memories of the night flooding her senses. Christian's touch, his whispered words, the fierce tenderness he'd tried so hard to hide. But Anna's peace was short-lived. Christian's voice, rich and amused, broke through the haze. Good morning, Miss Steele. Anna blinked up at him, immaculate as ever in a crisp white shirt and dark jeans, coffee cup in hand. She sat up quickly, pulling the sheet around her. He chuckled. "You don't need to hide from me," he murmured. Anna blushed, but she managed a smile. "I'm not hiding, I'm modest." Christian raised a brow, a slow smirk tugging at his lips. "You have no reason to be modest, believe me." The heat in his gaze made her heart race. But before she could respond, he set his coffee down and clapped his hands lightly. "Come on, we have somewhere to be." "Where?" Anna asked, wary but intrigued. Christian's smile widened, a mischievous, boyish grin that made him look almost innocent. "You'll see." He tossed her a bundle of clothes, a simple gray dress, matching shoes, and ordered her to get dressed. Anna obeyed, her mind whirling with possibilities. 15 minutes later, they were in the elevator, descending toward the unknown. Taylor was already waiting at the entrance, the sleek black Audi parked neatly at the curb. Anna slid into the backseat beside Christian, her hands folded tightly in her lap. The drive was quick, smooth. When they pulled up in front of a glittering, glass-wrapped building, Anna's curiosity piqued. Christian helped her out of the car, his hand warm against her lower back. "What is this place?" she asked, eyeing the elegant facade. Christian only smiled, leading her inside. The lobby was vast, modern, all steel and glass and polished marble. Anna barely had time to take it in before Christian was ushering her into a private elevator. As the door slid closed, he turned to her, his expression suddenly serious. "I want to show you something," he said quietly. Anna swallowed hard, her nerves jangling. The elevator ascended swiftly, the floors ticking by in silent precision. Finally, they stopped. Christian led her into a vast, empty space, high ceilings, wide windows, sunlight flooding every corner. Anna gasped. It was beautiful. And utterly bare. No furniture, no decor. Just possibilities. She turned to Christian, confused. "It's stunning, but what is it?" He stepped closer, his gaze intense. "I bought it for us," he said simply. Anna's mouth dropped open. "You what?" Christian shrugged, as if it were nothing, as if buying an entire floor of a building was as ordinary as picking up groceries. "I thought you might like it," he said. His voice was softer now, almost vulnerable. "A place that's ours, where we can start fresh." Anna's heart thudded painfully in her chest. This wasn't just a gift. It was a promise. A future. A life. Tears pricked at the corners of her eyes. "Christian," she whispered. But he shook his head, stepping closer still. "No pressure, no expectations," he said. "I just wanted you to see it, to know that I'm serious." Anna bit her lip, overwhelmed. It was too much. Too fast. Too everything. But at the same time, it was achingly perfect. Before she could think better of it, she threw her arms around him, burying her face in his chest. Christian stiffened in surprise, and then relaxed, wrapping her tightly in his embrace. For a long moment, they simply stood there, two broken souls trying desperately to find peace in each other. Finally, Anna pulled back, blinking up at him. "So is this where you plan to keep me locked away?" she teased lightly, trying to steady her pounding heart. Christian laughed, a rich, genuine sound that made her toes curl. "Something like that," he murmured. "But you'll have the best view in the city." He turned, gesturing to the sprawling skyline visible through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Seattle stretched out before them, glittering in the morning sun. Anna smiled, the tight knot in her chest loosening slightly. Maybe, just maybe, she could belong here. With him. By his side. Always. Christian kissed her then, slow, deep, reverent. As if he, too, was making a choice. A choice to let her in. A choice to be vulnerable. A choice to love. When they finally pulled apart, Christian brushed a strand of hair from her cheek. "Come," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "I have something else to show you." Anna raised an eyebrow, amused. "Another surprise." Christian grinned wickedly. "Always." He led her back to the elevator, his hand never leaving hers. As they descended, Anna felt a giddy sense of anticipation building. Whatever lay ahead, she was ready. Ready to face it. Ready to face him. Ready to face herself. When they reached the garage, Taylor was waiting once more, but this time, with something new. A silver Audi R8 Spider gleamed under the fluorescent lights, sleek and dangerous. Anna gasped. You didn't. Christian's grin widened. I did. He handed her a set of keys. A graduation present. Anna stared at the keys, stunned. But, Christian, this is too much. Nothing is too much for you, he said firmly. Anna shook her head, laughing helplessly. I can't accept this. You can, you will. His tone brooked no argument. But I like my Beetle, Anna protested weakly. Christian's expression softened. You deserve better than that death trap, he said gently. And besides. He leaned down, whispering in her ear. I want to see you driving something sexy. Anna blushed furiously. Christian chuckled, pulling back to study her. You look beautiful when you're embarrassed, he said. Before she could protest again, he opened the passenger door and ushered her inside. Come on, he said. I'll drive for now. You can take the wheel later. Anna slid into the plush leather seat, her heart racing. The engine roared to life with a throaty purr, as Christian pulled out of the garage. They sped through the city, the wind in their hair, the world blurring around them. Anna laughed, exhilarated. Christian glanced at her, his eyes shining with something wild and free. For the first time in a long time, Anna felt weightless, unburdened, alive. And she knew, deep in her bones, that whatever storms lay ahead, whatever battles they would face them together. Side by side. Hand in hand. Heart to heart. Forever. And so, Anna's world tilted once more, a life she never dared to dream unfolding right before her eyes. A penthouse filled with possibilities. A silver car gleaming with promises. And Christian Grey, a man still wrapped in shadows, yet offering pieces of his heart with trembling hands. Their journey had only just begun. New temptations. New challenges. New secrets waiting in the corners where love dares to tread. Will Anna's fierce spirit be enough to weather the storms ahead? Or will the fire that draws them together become the very thing that tears them apart? The answers lie just beyond the next chapter, where desire deepens and choices must be made. Stay tuned for part 2. Because when it comes to Christian and Anna, the real story is only just beginning. And if you're loving the journey so far, don't forget, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a moment of their story. There's so much more to come.